Good evening and welcome to Reality Check. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. So a cyclone which is about to hit the west coast of India is about to make landfall. It was supposed to make landfall between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. and that's when, given its intensity, it would have caused damage. Let's first take a look at this map right now to give you a live image of where exactly is Cyclone Tauktae. So as you can see on your screen right now, it's about to hit the Saurashtra belt or South Gujarat. It's moving closely. You can see the eye of the storm as of this moment. Any minute now, this landfall is going to take place. Earlier in the day, we saw heavy winds gushing through the financial capital of Mumbai, wreaking havoc, uprooting trees, leading to traffic being stalled, the Bandra Worli ceiling being stalled. We'll get you reports also from our correspondents in just a short moment from now. But now the cyclone is moving slowly towards Gujarat, the southern coast of Gujarat. But the larger question here is this. It's the eastern part or the eastern coastline which is used to cyclone formation, extensive cyclone formation. Whether you talk about Odisha or even Andhra Pradesh, after having faced the 1999 super cyclone, Odisha learnt its lessons. These two states are way better prepared because cyclones keep coming in the Bay of Bengal. It's only in the Arabian Sea that this is a somewhat rare occurrence. Many experts say that this has to do with, this is what you call climate change. But the point is, now that the cyclone is here, how prepared are we? How prepared is our system along the western coast to be able to handle a cyclone like this?
Because of the wind speed. The wind is actually really high and we are not able to stand properly. So that kind of speed that we are talking about.
The IMD has predicted a speed which will go up to 120 kilometers per hour. And that's the reason what you will see is the sea is getting rough as we speak. You could see these visuals and imagine that if it is getting as high as on this flyover, you can imagine what would be the actual condition inside.
You can see that the sea is completely choppy. It is rough. The city has been carrying rain continuously since morning, and there were incidences of trees and branches falling off. As far as Mumbai's COVID patients are concerned, the government has said that they have made arrangements so that there is uninterrupted power supply and oxygen supply for the COVID patients.
પવનની ગતિ 170 કિલોમીટર પર રહેવાની છે. 12 વાગ્યા પછી કોઈ પણ વ્યક્તિ બહાર નીકળવાને મનાઈ ફરવામાં આવે છે.
So in about 120 seconds, we have tried to sum up what this cyclone is capable of doing. And remember, this is not even top speed because most of this was in Mumbai. Now, when it will make landfall in Gujarat, what exactly is it going to do? What are the wind speeds going to be? Joining us right now, Mr. Mahesh Palawat, Vice President, Meteorology and Climate Change at SkyMet Weather. Thank you very much, Mr. Palawat, for joining us. We also have Dr. Anjali Quatra, Director General, Center for Disaster Risk and Safety. I want to come to you, Dr. Quatra, first. See, the point is, it's the eastern coast which is so used to these cyclonic developments, cyclonic storms, and after that very disastrous 1999 super cyclone, Odisha as well as Andhra Pradesh, they learned their lessons. They know they've got a system in place. Do you think our west coast is equally capable, given that storms don't come with the regularity that they do on the eastern coast?
See, as far as the eastern coast is concerned, the storms and cyclones do occur with regularity. In fact, about 10 odd cyclones or storms do come to the coasts every year. But even on the western coast, 1 to 2 cyclones do happen every year, and this has been happening for decades. So there's no question of not being prepared. And what we see in our country, and especially in the coastal states, what we are seeing is that a lot of efforts are put only on the relief and response. What is required is to be prepared beforehand for disaster mitigation, as in to reduce the effect of the disaster. And in this, various aspects are covered, and most important, of course, is the early warning system. Then there are structural mitigation measures, and then there are non-structural mitigation measures. In the first case, that is of the early warning, our country has done a lot. In fact, a lot of technology, satellite-based technology with Doppler radars and all. Now the track of the cyclone, the intensity of the cyclone, and all the effects and exact prediction of the landfall. All this has been happening very accurately in the last few years, thanks to the National Cyclone Mitigation Project undertaken by the national government. And all the states have benefited, including Orissa, Andhra Pradesh and all. And their own states also, state disaster response forces have been trained and been kept ready for the local regions. Whereas National Disaster Response Force is the team that always leads the response, very effective response. But as I said, the second aspect is of mitigation, which I think is even more important. And that is where, as we say, best return for investment would be. Yeah. It is calculated that worldwide, that if $1 is invested in disaster mitigation, there will be a saving of $7 from the disaster losses. And India, in fact, loses something like 2% of its GDP to natural disasters. Now, this is quite a lot. And it is high time that more efforts are put into disaster mitigation efforts. And that, the first and the most important is involving the community. Because community-based disaster preparedness, as has been seen in Bangladesh, which is the most disaster-affected region.
That's right.
Especially
Dr. Quatra, maybe what we can do is you can elaborate on this further as we go along. This is an important point that you're making on how do we try to contain or limit the damage caused by these cyclones. But Dr. R.K. Janamani is a scientist of the Cyclone Warning Division of the IMD. Thank you very much, Dr. Janamani. An effective way to be able to contain the damage is correct information. To that extent, how successful have we been, Dr. Janamani?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Mr. Sanket. As you know that we are right from 3 to 5 days lead time. We are giving the advisories and also the alert. And when Lakshadweep, started from 13th of May, so it then Kerala 14, 15 and up to 16th morning, and 16 over Karnataka and then Goa, and then today whole Maharashtra coast, that is Konkan area, particularly Mumbai, and now it is making the landfall. That is the latest I have. So it is just making the landfall as we predicted east of DU. And as you know, we also told 8 to 11 p.m. So this is the 8 to 8, just 30 minutes past 8. So our prediction has been we are very happy because as you know that Arabian Sea cyclone normally very challenging to predict, and particularly this cyclone, as you know, many historical comparison is coming, but I will tell you this is the rarest actually because it has affected Lakshadweep, Kerala, then Karnataka and Goa and also Mumbai and now Gujarat. So such an energetic cyclone, it could sustain the energy and remain the extreme severe cyclone storm also. And the second part, as you told, that 1998, the Porbandar cyclone. After that, this is the most intense actually.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, Dr. Janamani. So you're saying that this, how many decades apart are these cyclones in terms of their intensity?
Yeah, I was telling that one cyclone impacting some 6-7 states. I have not seen the data. We tried to see the data, having, Lakshadweep right on Agati Island received 18 centimeter. And then Kerala, 3 days it was extremely heavy rainfall, right? Correct. From Trivandrum, then Idukki and all those districts, Wayanad also. And thanks God there were no landfall, but flooding, if you see the particularly Ernakulam, very huge flooding. So there was a very long period, extremely heavy rainfall up to 3 days. And then you have Goa also very badly affected. Correct. In terms of the rain, Goa was higher, in the height, so there was less storm surge. But as you further come to the Mumbai, very strong wind. All these areas were having 100, 110, 90, gusting to 100 kilometers. And now we have the latest from DU actually. And today by evening, 8:30 or 8 p.m., the wind has been, yes, as we predicted also, it has been coming around 100, 120 kilometers. Now yes, it will speed up also because just making the landfall. So landfall will take another 2 hours. So 8 to 11, and that is the things actually. So we have the radar along the coast, we have the satellite, we have the all kind of latest, and as you know that we are the best in the world also.
Correct. Absolutely. Predicting and preparing, these are two essential aspects as far as cyclone management is concerned.
Helps the evacuation and all kind, particularly the COVID period. So generator set and all those things here, because flooding is expected in the low-lying area. You cannot shift the hospital building, but at least you can keep everything ready. And then further prediction, we are also going, this system is having very, energetic, and it will continue actually. Tomorrow it will start affecting the Rajasthan actually.
Sure. So we okay. Mr. Palawat is also with us, and so is Mr. Satya Pradhan, is the DG of the NDRF. Mr. Palawat, we'll come back to you in just a short moment. Mr. Pradhan, good evening. I want to come to you now. Just a short while ago, we were discussing about the intensity of these cyclones vis-a-vis preparedness. Let me ask you this question. Since your job is more to do with containing the damage, you have the information, right? You got the information well in advance. How confident are you that we'll be able to minimize the damage of this cyclone?
I think, Sanket, we'll have to see the damage in two dimensions, the damage to life and the damage to property and infrastructure. I think as far as the damage to property and infrastructure is concerned, it is a factor of the wind speed, the lethality of the wind. And obviously, we are looking at 175 to 185 kilometers in populated areas. So obviously, there will be some damage that goes without saying. How much exactly will be the quantum of that damage and how badly it will affect the infrastructure and then the normal life, it remains to be seen. But I think the other aspect of the preparation, which is saving of life, I think that is of paramount importance, and that is what is the zero casualty approach that most of the effective administrative strategies take. And this is the strategy
and what steps have been taken to make sure this happens?
Okay, to start with, because of the IMD's prediction timelines, which give us a lot of head space, we have located ourselves well in time, at least a week in advance. And we have started the awareness drive for evacuation, essentially for evacuation, because, evacuation is easier said than done. I say this with a sense of responsibility because it's not easy to ask people to abandon their houses, leave it to the mercy of nature and go to a safe house for 2 days, 3 days, and they are wondering as to what will happen to their house and property. So it is a tough call. It is not easy, but I think we are getting there, getting the act together, and we have been able to evacuate more than 2 lakh people who could have been in the harm's way. Having said that, is it optimal? Is it taken care of? No loss of life principle? Well, that cannot be said with absolute certainty. There can be stray incidents. There can be something which will take a life here and there. But I hope that will be stray incidents only and not a mass incident kind of a situation. So that is what we are aiming at, and that will be the bottom line for which we are working. And I hope on the other side of the storm, we achieve that to an optimum satisfaction.
Now, Mr. Pradhan, as far as disaster management and relief is concerned, how would you categorize your challenges as far as the East Coast and the West Coast is concerned? The reason why I keep coming back to this point is because Odisha saw a super cyclone in 1999. We know what it did, but we also know what Odisha and Andhra Pradesh did as a consequence, right? They prepared better. So obviously it's easier for you, and we've discussed this in the past also, to galvanize efforts on the East Coast. Do you share a similar experience in the West Coast also, or things are a bigger challenge here?
I would say, sorry.
You may want to take that. It might be important.
No, it's okay.
Sure.
You know, Sanket, I would just qualify that by saying that to start with, the states of on the eastern coast certainly bore the brunt of the cyclonic storms. And those storms which came on the western coast probably were fewer and far between. Now the patterns have changed. Arabian Sea is seeing regularly cyclones, and this is a cyclone in the month of May. It's a summer cyclone which is probably happening after a 2-decade hiatus.
Correct.
So things are getting more regular here, and the states are getting used to it. Whether it's a good thing, well, you can see it both ways. But from a disaster response perspective, from an NDRF perspective, it is a good thing. Because let us not forget that the disaster response is essentially a state subject. The mandate is of the state, and we go as a force of assistance. So any central agency, for that matter, goes as a force of assistance. So when we go there and we find that things are already well oiled on the ground in the state administration, it becomes that much more easier, which I think you
So are they this time around? Are they in Gujarat?
I think we have found that the state administration is very well primed, and certainly Gujarat, because they realize that they are going to bear the brunt of the cyclone's impact, they have prepared very well and very thoroughly. And I think not only the state agencies, but the local administration agencies, and what is good, community bodies, NGOs, civil society bodies have come together. And I think it is turning out to be a massive effort on the ground. I hope the consequences are also equally pleasant.
That's true. Mr. Satya Pradhan, thank you very much for battling with this cyclone, which, by the way, has got a very tricky name. I don't know how you've been able to figure out how to pronounce it. It took me a while. It means a gecko lizard in Burmese. Strange names these cyclones have, but good luck dealing with it. Let's hope that we are out of this soon and fine. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Palawat, I want to come back to you now. I want to take this question with you as far as assessing the intensity or the impact of a cyclone. So do you think that at least on that part, we've been fairly successful with our advance warnings?
Yes, Sanket, we have seen that in 1999 cyclone, Odisha cyclone, there were more than 10,000 casualties. And during that time, we were not prepared. Actually, we were not fully prepared because Doppler radar were very limited, and you can say tools to predict and identify the track of cyclone and intensity of cyclone were very, very less. And now we are well equipped, and we have shown that in Odisha cyclone also we have predicted the path very accurately. And for Nisarga, which made a landfall south of Mumbai in Alibag, that time also the intensity and impact and the track of cyclone was well predicted. And this year also we are on mark. Not only SkyMet, IMD and JTWC, CIMSS, all agencies were in similar line, and the track was predicted accurately. Earlier track was slightly west of western part of Gujarat over Devbhumi, Dwarika, and after that towards.
Okay, we'll come back to Mr. Palawat in just a short moment. Dr. Quatra, you were talking about a disaster management response, what the response should be and how we should learn from certain experiences. Would you now like to elaborate?
Of course, the past experiences, we have to update our response plans accordingly. And this is a very important responsibility both of the state government and the local authority. And the disaster management is the prime responsibility of the district magistrate of the district which is affected by the disaster.
Correct.
And of course, the coordination of the district with the state government, the national bodies, as well as the institutions that give advisories and warnings, all this coordination has to be done at the district level in coordination with the state government. Now, what the previous speaker was saying, I can just add that now lot of states, most of the states have their state disaster management authority, which is the key body that not only makes policies and guidelines but also overlooks the implementation of the disaster management initiatives in the state. And in this respect, Gujarat state, I think, is by far the best state in the country, because the disaster management authority in Gujarat was the first one to come up in the country after the Bhuj earthquake. It came up in 2003, which was before the National Disaster Management Authority even came up. And our NDMA also took a lot of leads from the Gujarat State Disaster Management Authority in its formulation and the policies and guidelines it lays. And in fact, a lot of international conferences also praise Gujarat's efforts in disaster management. But the only gray area is the climate change led increase in disasters that is happening. And it is not the numbers only, numbers that are increasing, it is the intensity of the disasters. And especially with the vis-a-vis the hydrometeorological disasters, and which the worst disaster is the cyclones. And because of the increase in intensity, the preparations are always seen to be less than required. As when we see in case of cyclones, the worst, the parameter that can cause the maximum damage is the storm surge, as in the height of the tide, which will be the water that is going to be going inland, causing lot of destruction as well as contamination of the land vis-a-vis the saline water, as well as the drinking water resources that are going to be affected. And therefore, the post-disaster recovery is also going to be very difficult process. And for that is necessary forward planning, as in we need to prepare beyond what is expected. And that is the call of the day, because climate change is fast changing the disaster scenario of the entire world.
I think that's
India having such a big coastline, about 7,000, more than 7,000 kilometers.
Dr. Quatra, I agree with you. Because even if you see how monsoon play out and how rainfall happens, now that has also noticed a change because of climate change, where you have a month of rainfall in just a few days. Perhaps these are the changes that are happening. In the meanwhile, some breaking news as of this moment: the landfall process has started. It will complete in 4 hours. That's the latest that we are getting for our viewers right now. This cyclone is going to crash against the southern coast of Gujarat, which is the Saurashtra region. As you can see in this map on your screen right now, that's the eye of the storm, which you can see crashing against the southern coast of Gujarat. The whole process is going to take about 4 hours. There'll be heavy winds gushing across this area. Experts say that they will be as high as 180 kilometers per hour. And then slowly, as the cyclone moves inwards into the land after making landfall, it will run out of moisture, and thus the wind speed and the intensity of the cyclone is also likely to come down. But the true assessment of the damage caused will only be known tomorrow.